it's someone, I think, somewhere described it as we're having a renaissance moment. And I think, you know, to have a renaissance, you would have probably had to have had a golden age to begin with. But let's say we are having a renaissance. I think what I'm looking for in this period is the diversity of stories. And I'm not 100% convinced that we're quite there yet. The few issues that we still seem to be allowed to sort of talk about, don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining, these stories are important, but as we move forward now, are we going to be given the opportunity to tell different types of stories and extend that moment, and it ceases to be a moment, let's say. But I mean, yeah, it seems as if, and the cynic in me is I'm trying to keep the cynicism out of my assessment of this period, in the sense that, the powers that be, or let's say, the broadcasters or the creative industries are exploiting a moment for their own ends. But I don't want to see it like that. But it would be possible to view it through that prism if you wanted to.
I mean, for any of you, do you think that this is a movement or a moment?
Well, hopefully it's a movement, but I think what's occurred serendipitously is basically a chance to hear us, and everyone is saying, well, we, as you've said, Kwame, I didn't know, and I think Stella told me that the most watched Black program in history on the BBC, and you think, wow, well, that says it's a story, and the way I would describe it, it's a story about a regular guy dealing with injustice. That's it. And you can go all the way down the road of the character and what kind of injustice, but that's the story. And it's just about a man, a regular guy. So hopefully we can tell more stories that doesn't necessarily have to be about the plight of being a person of color in Britain. But we haven't had enough of those stories for it to be something that we can exhaust yet, to go elsewhere. Yeah. So I suppose it's a tricky thing, I suppose, Stephen. That's what I feel as well, that I have stories, but I know that I want to get certain stories out that does tell that story.
Yeah.
In lots of different.
What I was trying to say is that we can tell those stories alongside others.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So that diversity of story is
yeah, diversity of story is everything. And I think what I'm hearing is that you guys are saying it's a step forward, but we've still got a long way to go.
Yeah.
And I think that feels really important, to recognize that there are more, and then to diversify that, to not only sit within one lane. I think that's absolutely right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Stella, can I, how was diversity in your crew? How did that look like?
I mean, we had a lot of women. I think we had a 70% female crew, which is very big.
And a mafia.
So, and in the crew, we did both of my producers are Black of Caribbean heritage. But I do think that there is a long way to go. I think that productions see it as a challenge when I don't think it is. I think that to really make it a movement and not a moment, as white people, we have to analyze what we've been doing wrong till now and change that. I don't think just adding money to a pot or starting initiatives now really changes that. We have to look at who is in power, who has control, and change that. And I think it's not about having to search for talent. I think the talent is there and has been ignored and neglected, and we have amazing Black women directors that have been neglected, and I think it's about what they call nurturing. I feel like my career has been nurtured, and why are we not doing that for others? So
I'm really interested in that. You've self-identified as white. So how did you walk into this environment feeling that you had a privilege, that maybe there should have been someone who was Black, or did you walk in and think, okay, this is what I have been nurtured and given, and how did you find your way in?
I think I think it's something that, especially now, I've been like really looking back at and analyzing. I think there was like a lot of naivety a year ago in myself. But I think there was also an honest discussion. I think that was it was attempted to approach several Black directors, because, you know, we're telling a Black story. So it's only fair and important that Black directors are given the chance to tell Black stories. So I think the discussion was there, whether I don't really know what happened, but I know that now is a time to kind of change. I know that me personally, I will be stepping aside and making space for Black directors, instead of taking, you know, we have this thing as directors and freelancers, we've got to take every job, we've got to, you know, you can't turn down a job. You got to pay the bills. I've got my daughter. Like, it's all self almost, you know. You're just like scrambling sometimes and feeling that you have to take every opportunity, especially as a woman. I feel like I can't really say no to opportunities, especially to a script that I connected with so strongly as well. I am an immigrant. I was going through settled status at the time that I read the script. And my daughter was stateless, even though I've been in Britain for 28 years. So, you know, I just think the effort needs to be made all around, and we need to really look at this industry deeply, and it's not just a superficial moment. You know, we have to really change the way it's been for many, many years.
I will second that I think that we have to make it a moment. We have to make it not a moment and make it a movement, right? We have to keep pressing, and I think this moment in history has deepened the listening, I think, of white Britain in a way that is relatively remarkable. And it's not to say people were not listening before, but it really has deepened it. And if the doors are open now, or the ears are open, the diversity of storytelling, the diversity of our crews and our commissioners, I think this is a moment where we need radical action. Again, but it all begins, doesn't it, with the art, and your art, I had to say, one and all, was simply marvelous. My final kind of question is, what's tomorrow looking like for all of you guys? We're in the middle of this Corona coaster. I hope that you have got through it well, or as well as humanly possible. What's tomorrow? Is there something really exciting that you're working on that you can tell us, that you won't tell us, that you shouldn't tell us, but you're really excited about? And what's tomorrow like?
Of course, you know, you have to be creative, imaginative at what you can possibly do if you're an artist, and invariably we find a way of trying to do stuff. So for me, I feel, you know, the question was asked, and I think, Kwame, just to go back on the point you were making, you know, in terms of being listened to, we are being heard now. It's essentially what we've been saying it all the time. Hey, we're not being included. You know, can we get this wrong? You know, can we do this thing? And suddenly we go, okay, we'll give you a chance to get it wrong. It's how I feel, because I haven't, you know, I've always been on that thing of going, I know I'm doing all right, but you know, the brothers aren't, you know, there's a glass ceiling, and why? Why is there a glass ceiling? Why can't we do this? So I know that now we're being heard. But anyway, in terms of being a creative being in this mad time, you know, I feel that being asked the question of what can we do to make things better? Well, you know, obviously we're being heard, and essentially it's educating, leading out of ignorance, those folk who ultimately need to be led out of ignorance, and it starts where you teach the children, and hopefully they will come with the next stage of how things can be made better. Right now, there's a lot of bickering happening, and one side and t'other, and I can go into the whole thing, having you know mixed heritage children, to say, well, it's either black or white. It's basically, as far as I can see so far, empathy, and non-empathy. So people who have hardly any empathy, they can do the things they do. Business people don't have much feeling going on because it's about the profit margin, and that seems to be what's running everything right now. So in terms of trying to change that, you have to educate the little ones now. And so what am I trying to do that? I'm trying to read stories like a Jackanory, that's Caribbean, West Indian stories for children. And I'm not saying black children, I'm saying children. Stories are stories, essentially. And for me, that's how I've thought, right, I'll do that. And I'm sort of working with that with my son, who's a cinematographer, and we're reading little stories and trying to get it somewhere. And that's one thing that I believe helping to try and change how things are. Educate the youngsters and they will change things. And if you knew everything in terms of history, that's how it changes as far as I can see.